Support for this series comes from Inland Empire Health Plan, a health plan with a mission to heal and inspire the human spirit, serving over 1.5 million members in the Inland Empire.
Don't internalize everything and try and battle it yourself, because there are people that love you and care for you and want you to be healthy. Don't really try and take everything alone.
Behind every diagnosis is a person, a family, a story. Hi, I'm Leticia Juarez, and on this show, we're listening to patients and the medical professionals who walk beside them, sharing their struggles, breakthroughs, and the lessons learned along the way. Together, we're making healthcare clear, compassionate, and closer to home. So join me on this journey of health caring. Today's episode shines a light on chronic illnesses, specifically diabetes and hypertension, which are the most widespread yet often misunderstood. We'll speak with 3 individuals to learn what it truly means to live with these conditions, the challenges, realities, and resilience to take it day by day. Among the experts giving us insight into the long-term health effects is Dr. Balu Gowdy, whose extensive experience in managing diabetes and hypertension offers valuable perspective and hope for patients everywhere.
I'm happy to be on this program because educating the families and community on chronic health is a big passion of mine. So I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician and have been practicing in medical field for over 30 years, primarily in the hospital medicine.
For people who don't know, you hear the word hypertension. It's a medical term, but what does it mean in just general terminology? What is hypertension?
So hypertension is also called high blood pressure. So when there is high pressure in your blood vessels, then it affects all the organs in the body. So the high blood pressure is same as hypertension.
Is hypertension preventable, and why does this matter to you as a physician?
Hypertension could be preventable because there is genetic component and then there is a lifestyle component. And majority of it is lifestyle component. So if you are able to address your lifestyle and live a healthy lifestyle, then your chances of developing high blood pressure or hypertension goes down. Why is it important? Well, it's really important because it can cause a lot of damage to your body. And hypertension is one of the silent killers. It can affect your whole body, starting from brain in the way of stroke and dementia, blindness, heart attack, kidney failure, amputation, and a lot of other problems. So it's a very, very serious medical condition. So anytime I see a patient who may have high blood pressure, I really want to educate them so that they can prevent it from getting worse.
Sammy Luna thought she was too young, too healthy to worry about high blood pressure. It wasn't on her radar until it became impossible to ignore. Now she's learning that awareness isn't fear, it's power. Hi, Sammy.
Hi, Leticia. Come on in.
Thank you, Sammy, for having us in your home today to talk about the very important topic of hypertension and high blood pressure.
Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you guys.
How did you first realize that there was a problem?
Well, it all started with when I was doing my regular checkups at the doctor, as well as dental visits. Every time they would take my blood pressure, they would say, "Oh, your blood pressure's high," and they would take it a second time. And I had some coffee. That was kind of the first indicator, but I kind of just blew it off.
Did you experience any symptoms before your official diagnosis?
So no, I didn't actually. At least not until after I was diagnosed did I start noticing symptoms. And maybe that was because I was maybe ignoring those symptoms, but those symptoms continued to get worse after the diagnosis.
Because hypertension is something that does not always have an outward manifestation, it goes unchecked. Because most people are not just randomly checking their blood pressure until somebody tells them to do so. And usually people tell them to do so if you had a parent who had high blood pressure, or you're just sitting there with the cuff and it's like, okay, fine. If you go to your provider regularly, even if you have a high blood pressure reading there, most people dismiss that as white coat syndrome, right? Because, yeah, I'm in a provider's office and the fluorescent lights are blinding me and I don't know what you're gonna tell me. So yeah, my blood pressure is going up.
Yeah.
And there's fail-safes there, right? When you have a high blood pressure reading in the provider's office, they're supposed to wait a while and then check it again. And if it's high again, wait a while and check it again. But everybody doesn't do that because, again, we dismiss it as white coat syndrome, right? But what if we didn't? Especially for those populations that we know have a higher propensity for this silent killer.
I began to think that maybe I was in perimenopause, even though I felt like I was a little too young for that.
What kind of symptoms were you experiencing?
So when I would go for walks during my work, I would feel very lightheaded, very dizzy, almost like I wanted to faint. The other thing was I would wake up in cold sweats, but once my doctor diagnosed me and she gave me medication, I was still in denial. I told her, oh no, I said, I'm too young for this. How can I have it? And she asked me if my parents had high blood pressure. And I said, yes, both of them do. And she's like, it's genetic.
And obviously, when I asked you how you felt, you said, I feel too young to be experience this. May I ask how old you were?
I am 47 now, but at the time I was 43. So I didn't feel like it warranted me having high blood pressure.
Yeah. Did you just associate high blood pressure with a certain age?
I did, yeah. My parents didn't start taking high blood pressure medication until they were like in their 60s.
Does having high blood pressure change now your daily routine in a way?
I do make extra efforts to make sure I incorporate exercise and salads. Yeah, I just try to be a little more healthy than I was previously.
So with everything that you've now done, medication, obviously you've changed your diet. What is your blood pressure now? How is it?
As a matter of fact, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. It was good. She was like, oh, you have great blood pressure. I said, yay, the medicine's working. But I have been on the medicine for quite a while now. But every time now that I get my blood pressure taken, it's always good.
Does it give you like any pause knowing that this is something you're now dealing with? It's considered a chronic illness.
Yes, because I always thought of myself as a healthy person. But yeah, I definitely want to make sure people are more conscientious and aware and are proactive instead of reactive or in denial like I was. Because I kind of wonder if I would have continued to be in denial, what would have the results have been? Would I have had a stroke? Would I have had a heart attack? It's a good lesson. I hope other people will also take pause and listen to their body.
What is really healthcare? Usually it's sick care. Like I go to the doctor because I don't feel well. Some people do their annuals. But what is really teaching us how to eat, how to exercise, how stress affects our body, or how our family's DNA affects our bodies? A lot of that is prevention, and a lot of that is probably where the solution is going to come from.
So prevention, and that includes like diabetes, for instance. Mm-hmm. That's another killer in the population. Yeah. How does diabetes relate?
Usually if you have one, you have the other. Or if you don't have the other yet, most likely you're going to get the other.
Diabetes and hypertension, they both have kind of synergistic relationship in a bad way. When somebody has both of these conditions, it increases the risk of dementia, the stroke, the heart attack, kidney failure, amputations. And when somebody has this, if at an early age, the rest of their life is very complicated because of that.
Wanting to understand diabetes beyond the statistics, I sat down with Dr. Cotternies, an endocrinologist who's helped countless patients navigate life with the condition. I think we've all heard the term diabetes, but what is it? What is diabetes?
So at the core of diabetes is a mishandling of sugar. Sugar is so important because it is what is like the gasoline in our car, what keeps our body moving and forward. Without sugar, we can't perform normal daily functions. In type 1 diabetes, you're not making the insulin that unlocks the door to let the sugar into the cell.
Got it.
Right.
And the type 2s, you have too much.
In terms of type 2 diabetes, it's more of a resistance to insulin, actually, where it is normally due to sedentary lifestyle, overweight, and other factors that contribute to that resistance. And so that sugar, the gasoline can't make it into the cell as well. Actually, currently in the United States, approximately 12% of the population have diabetes. It's grown exponentially over time. Every time they do statistics, I'm just kind of baffled. And even more concerning is the pre-diabetic population, which is kind of that pre-stage before you get to diabetes. About 97 million people in the United States have pre-diabetes. And I always say, our Californians, we think we're maybe immune to that. You think of people running on the beach, eating their avocado toast, but we've done epidemiologic studies, and UCLA did one several years ago that showed almost 50% of Californians have pre-diabetes.
What are some symptoms that maybe people are overlooking before they go in to get diagnosed? Like when you see people for the first time, your patients, what is it that is bringing them into your office?
We can build up what's called ketones in our body, and that can really lead to problems with nausea and vomiting. We call it diabetic ketoacidosis. So that's one of the presenting signs of type 1 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes, there's a very good percent of people that actually don't have any symptoms at all. When people do have symptoms, you're drinking more water, you have like an insatiable thirst, and you're urinating more because the sugar in the bloodstream is high, and you're trying to filter that out through the kidney. So you're urinating out a lot of that water, and then you're so thirsty because you've been urinating a lot. So those are some of the major symptoms that we see in our type 2. But again, it can be insidious, and sometimes people really don't have symptoms, and that's why screening can be important.
Leonard Sanchez, a teacher at Chaffey Union High, remembers constantly reaching for water, never feeling satisfied. It was the very symptom Dr. Cotternies had warned about. From what I understand, you are a coach in our local community.
Yes, I'm a coach for, right now, high school basketball at Chaffey High School in Ontario. But I've coached multiple sports at Chaffey High School: baseball, most recently girls tennis, boys tennis, and girls golf. So I've done a lot of coaching in addition to my teaching.
So did you find it surprising when you were told you had diabetes?
Yes and no. No, because it's kind of run in my family. And unfortunately, both my grandfather and my dad, I remember them having to have one of their legs amputated, and it was kind of in my brain, like I may be heading here. And then sure enough, it's been a while. It's been like over 20 years since I was diagnosed.
How old were you?
I was in my 20s, late 20s. I was working with my aunt and uncle, and they have an office. They do fireplace distribution, and I was working at the phone desk for them. And my aunt noticed, "You're drinking a lot of water. Like, I see you drinking a lot." I said, "I'm always thirsty. I don't know what's going on." And I went to the doctor not too long after that, and that's when they did the testing and like diagnosed me as being a type 2 diabetic. Started with prescription pills, and up until about 5 years ago, they switched me to insulin, where I have to inject insulin every day.
There is one really interesting piece of evidence that children who have a parent that has diabetes, they're about 3.5 times more likely to have diabetes. So again, that's someone, if you have that history that you know of within your parents and your first degree relatives, then you're talking to your healthcare provider earlier on. Hey, is this something where I need to be screened now? When should I screen myself? And having that relationship with a healthcare provider earlier on. I think the majority, though, is that sedentary lifestyle, obesity. Also, factors including hypertension and cardiovascular disease may go along with diabetes as well.
Got it. So because my dad has diabetes, his dad had diabetes.
Exactly.
There's probably a good chance that even if I have a good lifestyle, I'll still get it?
Not necessarily. So with the right lifestyle and trying to prevent, it's all about prevention. So if we can do anything before you get to that stage, that's where we're going to protect you from all those different complications down the road.
What have you had to change, like when that first diagnosis came to the doctor, talk to you about changing your lifestyle or doing anything different?
It's been, a lot of it was you have to lose weight. And being so active, I think I got away with a lot of my bad habits. And I was managing, and then for me personally, right around COVID time, had a little tough stretch, and probably ate too much, drank too much, enjoyed too much. I put on 30 pounds.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for you living with diabetes?
Trying to manage food, really. I've been able to adjust over the last few years on foods that really affect me, that I've grown up with. We're Latino, we don't eat beans and rice and tortillas with every meal, but I do enjoy them, And I remember when they first put me on insulin, they said, you're probably gonna gain weight. And it's like, wait, you want me to lose weight, but you're giving me something that may have me gain weight. So it's that constant battle and constant back and forth that is a challenge.
What do you wish people knew about living with diabetes?
For our type 2s, I want them to know that they don't need to be perfect, but they need to make some change, right? So no one asks for perfection. I always say I'm not perfect, and I have my days where do things that, man, that's probably not the thing I should have ate that day, right? But we're not asking for perfection. We're asking to make some small changes that add up over time, and we're making those habits so that we can be healthier for the future.
The biggest takeaway for me is not being so self-critical, and know that you don't have to be perfect. Communicate with your doctor, communicate with your family, and let people know. Don't internalize everything and try and battle it yourself. Because there are people that love you and care for you and want you to be healthy. Don't really try and take everything alone.
I really want our type 1 diabetics to feel empowered. I want them to know that it's not their fault, and we have new ways of helping them to be successful, and that they can do anything that anyone else can do.
Hey, happy Friday, Yotes. We're here in the Jack H. Brown College on a Friday. Get excited, because you're going to see it, and I can't wait for you to see it, because it's pretty good, I think. Peace. Peace.
Well, I've been on campus 20 years, and I work here in the marketing department. I don't think there's a better place in the Inland Empire to go to school.
Thank you, Lisa Gordon, for joining us today to talk about a very important topic, type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I understand that you have a complicated diagnosis.
I'll say that.
You were first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Talk to me about when that happened.
Well, originally it started in pregnancy, and I had gestational diabetes. Went away after the pregnancy ended, and then I had a later in life pregnancy at 34, and it came back again. And they actually put me on insulin during that pregnancy. When that was over, they took me off it, and I seemed to be okay. I'd say 9 years ago, I got real sick here at work. At that time, it was actually my gallbladder, but weird symptoms were happening, and they couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting better. They took my gallbladder out, thought that would be it, and it wasn't. And they started treating me for type 2 diabetes. Then we tried surgery, weight loss surgery, because type 2, that works typically with type 2. I lost weight, nothing changed with my A1C. And that's when they let me know, you're type 1 now, and you're never gonna get off insulin. And everything changes then when you find out that you're never gonna be able, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, there's no diet.
No,
There's
no
no lifestyle
diet,
changes.
nothing.
You can do it. Type
Yes.
1 is forever insulin.
Forever, yes.
So talk to us about what symptoms were you having? So after the gallbladder surgery, they take out your gallbladder, but you're still having those persistent symptoms. What were they?
And it would, it's funny. Every time I would eat a meal, I always felt like I needed to take a nap. immediately. I tried so hard, that it didn't really matter the level of carbs that, was in the meal, but it always affected me. I'd be at family functions or a party, eat something that they were serving, and immediately feel the need that I had to lay down. And sometimes even here at work.
So this was interfering with your life.
Yes, yes. And being the main breadwinner of the family, you just keep going. There's no stopping. And so I just had to find a way to do it sick. And that's what I was trying to do.
So when they told you you're a type 1 diabetic,
Yeah.
you're always going to be on insulin,
Yeah.
what was that first thought?
I cried. I cried because at that time I was probably giving myself 6 shots a day with a needle, testing my blood 8 to 10 times a day because my numbers were really high. My A1C was very high. And not even being familiar with the process of this, I was very nervous. I had a lot of anxiety because I went low. With a type 1, you really go low. They talked a lot about coma, not waking up.
Type 1,
Mm-hmm.
you're giving yourself 6 shots and monitoring your blood 8 times a day. That's a full-time job you were doing.
And you have to factor in the middle of the night, my alarm is going off, waking me up, telling me my numbers are high or my numbers are low, off and on all night. I'd say 2 hours at a time is my sleep pattern. So you never sleep. So you're exhausted all the time.
Trying to live with this new diagnosis.
Yes. And the anxiety of, am I going to wake up?
Did it eventually get better?
Yes.
How has it changed?
So everything changed about 2 years ago when they put me on a Dexcom monitor and an Omnipod monitor. So I have an insulin pump attached to my body, and I have a Dexcom attached to my body to give me my blood sugar readings 24/7 and insulin immediately ready that I can give to myself. And at night, instead of me going high, it's giving me little increments of insulin, never a large amount. And it'll stop if I start to go low. And I still get the alerts. I still go low sometimes, not as low as I was going before, but it's been a lifesaver. I mean, I feel like I've been able to a little bit live my life again.
So you wear a glucose monitor,
Yes.
and it talks with your insulin pump, and
It
the
does.
two of them together help to manage your highs and lows.
Yes. I can just look at my phone. I can see what my blood sugar is. If I was to eat some food and I know what the carbs are, I would put that in. It tells me how much insulin to take instead of me having to figure it out. Before, I always had to figure it out. And sometimes the calculations can be a little daunting. So it really has been life-changing for me. I feel like I can function a little bit better in the world.
Do you wish you would have told yourself sooner, or do you wish you would have done it sooner?
I do. I could kick myself. I tell my husband, I could have been feeling better a long time ago if I had just gone ahead and let them, give me the pump. It was just, you hear pump and it sounds scary, nobody wants a pump on their body.
No.
And I tell people, I'm like a Tamagotchi, the game. Feed the pet. It's gonna die if you don't feed the pet. That's me. Feed Lisa, give her, I try to be funny about it. I try to make light of it because it's not, it's a serious thing. And if I think about it too much, it can get to me. So when I can make light of it, it helps other people around me. Not only does it make them feel comfortable, but other people that might be struggling with it come up to me and, want to talk to me about it.
So you're bringing some humor into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes a dark subject.
Yeah. I tend to do that with all subjects. So, yeah.
So what do you tell people who are brand new to type 1 diabetes that come and talk to you?
That it's a process, and expect that it's going to take time, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you need a support system. A lot of times you need a team. in terms of whatever your doctor. A lot of times you have an endo, you have, other people that are involved that are usually checking on you, seeing how your blood sugars have been. So you're not really out there on your own. If you're a type 1 and that's happening, that's a problem. I wouldn't recommend that. I don't know how you would be functioning. You won't function long as a type 1 without getting regular care. There's no getting around it. If you're not treated, you won't make it.
So would you say Lisa is thriving now?
Lisa has to. I just want to feel good for myself, but also show my kids that no matter what is happening with a person, that you can overcome. And if you can't overcome, you find a way to deal with it and still be happy. It doesn't have to take you down.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about diabetes and letting our viewers know a little bit more about it.
I'm happy to do so. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me.
From the basketball court to the doctor's office, these stories remind us that chronic illness never takes a day off. But with early screenings, better education, and new technology, people are finding ways to manage and even thrive. Coach Sanchez tells his players that health is about effort, not perfection. And for Sammy Luna, listening to her body turned out to be life-saving. Their journeys show us that chronic illness doesn't define who you are. Patients say the biggest lesson is simple: listen to your body. And when something feels off, speak up, advocate for yourself, or find someone who can help. Because taking charge of your health today can make all the difference tomorrow.
Support for this series comes from Inland Empire Health Plan, a health plan with a mission to heal and inspire the human spirit, serving over 1.5 million members in the Inland Empire.